Hello, hello, and welcome to yet another edition of the RuPaul's Drag Race GAMbIT Magazine Podcast. We are the Shady Ladies. I am Samir Roy, Samiracles on Instagram, if you will.
I'm Margaret Poupard.
And we are here to talk about what is easily the best episode of this. I keep saying that. I've said it a couple times.
I was going to say, you start almost every episode.
I've said that a couple times, but seriously, because it's like we were doubting this season so much.
Every episode of every podcast we've done so far, you've started out pretty much saying the same thing.
No, there was a couple. Snatch Game, last week's episode did not start that way because I was so disappointed. So I was like, that was a real change. But, they've been getting better and better. Like, people have really kind of written that season off as like a really kind of a lame duck season in a lot of ways, I think, because it felt like so much of it was so pre-planned. Like, there was a feeling that, like, oh, like, they're so knowledgeable of, like, what's successful about this show that they're trying to recreate that over and over and over again. But I felt like there's been a couple challenges, at least in this season, that have been something I don't think I ever really imagined them to do. And I was really pleased with the creativity of it. And this one, seriously, I never foresaw conjoined twin drag queen as a theme for an episode. Because when they say those words and you know how creative drag queens are, by their very nature, that these gay men are going to come up with something really fucking hilarious with this idea. Like, they're not going to just all be joined at the hip. They're going to be joined in some weird places. I was a little surprised that nobody was joined at the head. I guess they all thought that would be...
Well, Miss Fame, that was a missed opportunity. Oh. Much like your response to every single joke opportunity that RuPaul gives you when she proposes that joke so flatly and you just miss the beat every time. I'm so happy that RuPaul called her out on it so directly because I don't think Miss Fame is good with, like, subtle critique. And pardon my voice, by the way, I'm back from Disneyland and too much drinking. So I will sound like this for the rest of the podcast. I'm also dying slowly, guys. I'm sorry.
Like Aunt Patty and Aunt Selma.
Oh my God! I'm progressively just taking my right place in the world.
Why don't you kids get me a beer smoothie? So I'm cool with it though. I'm sure everyone else is.
Yeah, I'm sure it sounds fine. I'm sure I'm even easier to hear than I usually am.
Oh, yeah.
But Miss Fame was called out so directly by RuPaul, and she finally got it, but by the very end of the episode, and it was still kind of sad that her response, it was, like, lackluster, too. I felt like, well, now's your chance to actually think about it and come up with something funny.
It's like he's told her so many times, it's like, you need to listen. That's,
I find it the funniest that this is, like, the reoccurring joke of the season. Miss Fame, how's your head? Oh, well, I'm feeling okay today. Like,
the best, when he's like, so he asks her again, and he tells her, he asks her the joke, she doesn't get it. He's like, this is your problem, you don't listen. This is where the acting challenges are difficult for you, because you don't listen. So, I'm going to ask you again, how's your head? And it's like, I think at that point, Miss Fame probably realized, since she hadn't been listening that whole time, she never actually listened to whatever the punchline actually was, so I don't think she even knew it at that point. And then, like, there's Candy Ho standing there being like,
yeah.
Aren't you gonna say the line? That's a cue for you to say, haven't had any complaints yet. And then, so after RuPaul has called her out, told her exactly what the problem is, asked her the joke again to give her another chance, right then, her 10th chance. So how's your head? Fine.
Like, it was such a panic-stricken response.
It was such
like a deer in headlights.
You couldn't tell, like, even if she wasn't intentionally being funny, it was still, like, the perfect response in that moment. Like, if you were a comedy queen, that is probably what you would have said just to be funny, because that is genuinely hilarious. But I felt like it was happening for real, because she really didn't know the punchline.
No, it was happening for realsies, and I didn't find it hilarious. I found it hard to sit through again. I was like, God damn it, why can't you just deliver? Oh my God.
Like, when she starts talking and it's like all like the woozy, like echo, like the woozy imagery, like they start like doing that sort of shadow effect.
Poor Candy Ho being paired up with her. I mean, we're skipping way ahead here now. I just wanted to bring up poor Miss Fame and her lack of comedic timing, and I don't know how to help that girl.
Well, she actually was self-aware enough by the end.
The very, very end.
Very, very end, which was like, it took me weeks, but I got it. We'll see how this plays out in the future, but she avoided the bottom 3 again.
Did she? Yeah, she did. She narrowly avoided it.
Or bottom 2. She avoided the bottom 2 again.
I was like, she was in the bottom 3.
I was just like, she was in the bottom 3, but she was not in the bottom 2. Because I think that the thing is that, like, you know, when you kind of think about how RuPaul judges these things, I always get the sense that RuPaul really is just doing basic arithmetic. Okay, this person was so-so in this challenge, or like this part of the way they executed it is so good, like it's so well executed, but the idea is only like halfway. Then you have someone where the idea is like really great, the execution is like less than halfway. You know, it's like, so like when you really add it all up, it's like, I don't usually disagree with the decision of who's in the bottom, because you can be like, okay, I can see, like, you know, because even if you felt like Miss Fame's idea was not so great, the execution of it was flawless and beautiful, and you have to give credit where credit is due. Like, that is not easy. It's not, you know, a simple thing to think of that look and to execute it.
Well, at least the look execution was thought out, regardless of unoriginality. But I think Miss Fame's problem is, I mean, it's paired up with see, now we're getting way ahead.
We have to go back to the beginning.
We have to go back to the very beginning before I start talking about what I think happened with their pairing. Is that just in general of what I think happened to a lot of the teams that found themselves towards the end of the bottom was that they got paired with a previously eliminated queen that came back for this challenge that wasn't going to challenge them artistically, because they were kind of leaning on them in certain ways because that wasn't their forte.
Yeah.
And so, to Miss Fame's credit, the execution was beautiful, but she didn't have someone to check her to say, oh, Pearl already kind of did like a busted surgery look. Like, and maybe that's a disadvantage to having an eliminated queen, but I'm pretty sure that Candy Ho was there for that. But it's just a matter of having a good balance as a teammate, and having Kennedy Davenport pick them. It's kind of like, I can't tell if she tried to sabotage people or if she just didn't give a fuck enough.
I think she was trying to sabotage people, because it's funny because
then in Untouched she like went through and explained to everybody why she paired them up with who she paired them up with, and she actually came across as very earnest, and even Violet was like, I actually don't think you're trying to be shady right now at all. I actually think that you had everyone's best intentions, or as good of an intention as you can have in a competitive reality show, in your pairing up of them, no matter how weird and like strangely unsound your reasoning may be. Like, she paired up Candy Ho and Miss Fame because she knew that Miss Fame could paint Candy Ho to look a lot like her, which sounds pretty genuine, and maybe it's kind of true.
Reasonable, but I mean, what was her excuse for Ginger Minj and Sasha Belle?
She thought that Sasha Belle could sew better than what ended up being the byproduct.
But Sasha Belle said she couldn't sew. So Sasha Belle couldn't sew. Ginger Minj wasn't a great sewer, and Sasha Belle was easily one of the weakest competitors. There was just no real personality there. No complete theme or concept behind her drag, as we saw from what we saw on the show. And she wasn't really contributing a great deal throughout the episode to the team from the way it was edited. I mean, I'm not a firm believer in they edited me to look that. I don't think that's possible. You have to give them the material to work with first, right. You know?
I agree.
But it is possible to be manipulative, and I just don't know if it was necessarily manipulative to show Sasha walking around and talking to people. That's probably the best representation of what she really brought to the challenge before they got to the stage.
Well, yeah, they can't delve deep into every single person's thought process they don't have that fucking time.
They don't, of course not. They definitely don't, but I felt like it's a little too convenient for like the strongest competitor in the competition right now to be paired with one of the weakest competitors of the whole season.
Right.
That seems more than just like, I thought that she could help you sew.
But because Kennedy comes across as such a like lackadaisical person, you can't tell. No, I don't. I don't buy it. I just can't tell like where she's, because there are parts of her reasoning that sound legit, and then there are other parts where you're like, are you being I can't tell.
She's being willfully stupid.
There we go. That's exactly it. Because you
when
can't
she
tell
pretended that
being naive.
her
But
death
it's girl,
you've
been around the block long enough to where you can't pull off this naive it wasn't me
or convincing us that this bad idea was a real idea.
So she plays basically two truths and a lie. That's what I think. She couches whatever her bullshit excuses within two things that sound almost passable, so you don't hear the super shady sounding thing. That's what I think.
I mean, it's a good strategy. It's
a great strategy.
I'm seeing through the strategy.
Exactly. I just figured it out.
It's just so obvious. Like I said, everything that she's really done, when she
everything she's done is so on the nose and so obvious. Let's just start with the mini challenge. Her Ashley Larry getup. Bitch, all right, everybody's seen Chappelle's show. You aren't going to do Ashley Larry better than Ashley Larry does Ashley Larry. And your prison getup is fucking tired, and it wasn't that funny. I thought Katya's was way better, of course, as always. And it's just such a groaning sigh that I have whenever she wins something because it's so undeserved. Because I feel like she's completely uninspired. That she's just walking through in a haze, and she can just kind of because whenever she breaks away from her very super serious ladies should be seen and not heard acts kind of on the ghetto side or whatever. I don't know a better PC term than what I just said, so apologies if that's fucking offensive. But regardless, she whenever she taps into that kind of girl, Jamie Foxx Vaseline date, whenever she channels that Jamie Foxx in drag kind of persona is when she gets laughs, but I've already fucking seen that shtick. But to everybody else, it feels fresh and original, and it bugs me to fucking death that she gets credit for it when people like Ginger and Katya are, if they were given more of an opportunity to shine, or maybe even a small boost of confidence, would do way better in mini challenges and maxi challenges and show off their funny more. And Katya would fucking maybe do a Russian impression. I don't know. But giving somebody who I think is not undeserving, because there's obviously a reason why she's there, but somebody that I feel is just kind of just blasé about the whole thing. If you keep handing over her wins, and so she thinks that that's what she's doing, the kind of
she's doing everything right or something.
Yeah, and not challenging her. So all we're seeing is kind of the same fucking thing. I'm bored. I'm so bored, and I'm bored of her fucking winning. I'm over it. And I'm sure a lot of the queens feel the same goddamn way as I do.
I mean, the episode blew past the whole fact that she won Snatch Game as a man, tied with Ginger Minj. The first tie in Snatch Game ever with someone who portrayed a man. They just blew past at the beginning of this episode. We didn't see anyone else's reaction to that. They completely edited it out of the episode, which was really the only real mark against the episode as a whole, because I thought this really was a brilliant episode. How could you possibly write even the way that it ended, from where it began? And you knew they were toying with us. They all knew what was going on. When they're oh, and now's the moment where we bring back the queen, because it just kind of went to oh, here's the mini challenge. We're not going to have them talk too much.
Yeah, they actually brought out Latrice Royale
for the
which
mini
I thought
challenge.
was a kind of a funny in a as much foreshadowing as you
get those nuts out of my face.
Well, as much foreshadowing as a reality show can give you. They were all expecting the eliminated queen that RuPaul had selected unbeknownst to them to walk through the door. And instead it's Latrice, and they have to do a mini challenge. So I kind of like the fact that they got to maybe let their guard down for a second, thinking that, oh, maybe it's over, maybe it won't happen, because everybody's facial expressions when she's okay, well, now Trixie come out, and it
was oh, well, obviously we thought Trixie was coming back,
yeah,
so
and I was
obviously that's
sweet,
the queen is coming
perfect.
back. We're just gonna move on. I'm oh,
another amazing prediction by me and Samir coming true once again.
God, so long ago from the very beginning. I knew it. I knew it all. But then the rest of them came in. It was
a fucking clown car, and Ginger looked like someone just kicked her in the snatch.
She was not having it.
It was rough. I mean, I completely understand. What the fuck? I worked so hard to get here, and now all these bitches come back. Do all of you come back? What's happening?
Because they're so at this point they're probably getting to the tired point, where they're just oh my god, I've been going nonstop for I don't know, 8 days at this point. However long it really is at this point.
Well, it's probably like 8 days, 24 hours a day.
Yeah, you know, it's like it's just never ending. It really is a race, they always say.
Unlike in like Top Model or even Project Runway, where you like see them like wake up in the hotel apartment that they live in, or you see them at night hanging out like around like a dinner table drinking wine and hooking up or whatever the fuck. You never see that in the show. It's like it's a grind. Like even just sometimes watching it goes from like mini challenge to prep for maxi challenge to runway challenge to critique to untucked to go to bed. Limp it for your life, untucked, go to bed, wake up, start all over again. So I wouldn't doubt that there are maybe like day 9 of a 24-hour a day like news cycle type reality show.
And when you're at your most
schedule.
tired is when you come up with the worst visions of things. So it's like when they saw them all come in for a split second, they probably all actually thought like, oh my God, everyone's coming back. And then that thought made them sink even further before like common sense kicked in. It's like, obviously they're not bringing back everyone. That's not happening. But I don't think that RuPaul said he hadn't done it before. And I don't think this has been done where he brought them all back to actually be teamed with one. And then the winning team, the eliminated queen on the winning team is the one who comes back. Like you really have to earn your way back in a challenge. Like, that's probably a great way to do it in the future. Like, every time you get to 7 eliminated, 7 left, here you go. Bring them all back, and the one who's coming back actually has to earn it in a challenge.
I think it makes maybe almost I guess maybe it satisfies the viewer, and on some level it satisfies the queens, because they do have to earn it. They don't just get to be, like, plucked back out and then brought back in just because they were eliminated, and now they need another person to possibly be eliminated, like, an episode or 2 later. Because at least even if that does happen, at least you got to see them come back with some sort of glory. And I feel like also a lot of the queens that were eliminated before and then were brought back for this challenge and didn't win the one coveted spot, I thought they also got a second chance that they kind of made the most out of.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really nice that a lot of them got to kind of go out on a stronger note than previously.
Most of them.
Jasmine Masters still went on the same sour-ass note that she usually goes out on.
I was a little touched by how Kennedy was like, she even in that short time that they were together, she knew her enough, but then to know she's like, there's like a lack of self-esteem there, like, like there's something, like, like you said, we had hoped in the written review, we had hoped maybe we could see something more of her. But we kind of saw, like, a more sad version of what we already saw. And yeah. Kennedy was kind of sad to see that and really wanted to lift her friend up, but she didn't really bring the creative vision to really bring them to that place. But they were so happy to, like, be working together. It was, like, a really nice other side of Kennedy that we don't usually see that much of. Like, we don't see her being an outright bitch to everybody openly. I mean, she's kind of like, she talks about everyone behind their back in the interviews. Sometimes she doesn't say certain things, but then she's usually honest about them in a very, like, nice as you can be way when she's criticizing someone, but she's not saying it in a like, girl, you really suck, and I think you're hideous, and I think everything.
No, I think she is actually, like, she has valid criticism when you confront her about something. She's not gonna, like, she's not gonna go to the lowest common denominator. She's gonna actually tell you the reasons why she thinks what she thinks.
Which is appreciative, and she doesn't say...
Yeah, no, at least she's not, like, calling you a gap-toothed bitch or whatever.
I mean, that was... No, Jasmine Masters, she's like all that long-faced, tight-ass, horse-faced Violet or something, which is like, damn! Oh my God, you really hate this person.
Yeah.
But, like, when everyone came back, who was it Tempest, who was like, the one I've noticed the biggest change in is Violet. She's so much nicer, and, like, she's really trying to get along with people, and I just see a real change, like, for the better in her. And it was just nice to know that, like, somebody who'd been in that environment, left and came back, was like, oh, I definitely see a difference. And I love that line where she's like, oh, and I'm not being shady, I'm actually complimenting. I'm doing this thing now where I tell people when I'm complimenting them so that there's no confusion. Like, oh, God, you are too funny. I really do love you, Violet.
I do. She's really a delight. I enjoy her very much so. But anyway.
But that was a cool pairing. Like, Kennedy paired everyone up in some ways, really for everyone's benefit. But it seemed like she was trying to be...
But I think that the ones that benefited, and I can point specifically to Violet and Max and Pearl and Trixie. I think on Kennedy's part, it was just lazy. Like, they've already been paired before. I don't really need to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think that she also, like, doesn't consider the younger queens to even be competition. And so
it blinded her in a way that made her weaker in the competition because she did not win this challenge.
Thank God. Because like I said in our review, they did like the broke-ass version of Trixie and Pearl's amazing conjoined prom
Easily
queen.
The best story. Oh my God. And it was
like an elaborate story like Mom left you out in the sun, that's why you have freckles. It was just
like, oh my God, brilliant. Every single moment of it.
Yeah, it was
every aspect of it.
And I thought it really showed how smart Pearl is, though, too, because she came up with the idea. She's like, let's be like pageant queens, but like you be the busted one that like Mom never loved, and I'll be like the beautiful one, and I'm just dragging you like. And of course Trixie contributed, but Pearl came up with the original idea. And I mean, that speaks to how collaborative and open she is, and like willing to like push her boundaries, and how much she's changed since she actually sent Trixie home. But on the flip side, you look at like Jasmine and Kennedy. And Kennedy, I know, wanted to do a favor to Jasmine, but just ended up kind of playing it safe because she didn't have a partner that was going to challenge her or add to anything. Because all Jasmine was going to do was, I mean, essentially pack her bags, so to speak. Like, I believe it was either Kasha or Tempest pointed out. Oh, no, it couldn't have been Tempest, obviously. No offense. But as Miss Kasha Davis pointed out, like right before Jasmine had gone home and things were kind of going south, she started packing her bags.
She already started that inner monologue of failure before she even
gone out to like the runway look. It was like when they were in the workroom, just like I think they had just wrapped their performance or something, and she just already had started packing.
Like she was staging her exit. She wore her best gown.
It was kind of depressing looking back at it. It was like kind of shockingly depressing. But because Jasmine's already in that mind state, she's not thinking about being funny or bringing her best look. She's probably in the mindset of I'm not even gonna win. I mean, just kind of quitting, and Kennedy already isn't, if she's not being challenged by somebody like Ginger, who she considers to be an equal, she's just not going to bring it. She's going to play it super safe. She did like the pageant queen, and then it was only at panel when they started giving her critique, like we wanted to see something else or something more, and she started talking about being like busted jazz singers or something. I can't remember now.
But,
but only then after the fact.
Leanne was like, Leanne Rimes, a surprising guest judge, that I read online, someone was like, and it seems like Leanne Rimes' agent booked her on some show that she'd never seen.
Right.
Because she was like, I have no idea what I got myself in for, but clearly she had a good time with it. And she was like, when you tell me that story, like I see, like I understand it, it makes sense, but I'm not getting that out of what you presented.
Exactly. And I felt the same way. I was like, that's always at all.
Kennedy's story. She makes up this like elaborate story to like somehow explain this like nothing idea that she brought. Like her death becomes her dead chicken. She was crystallized hooker.
Oh my God.
Drag queen. Like she just made up some bullshit because she wanted to wear this thing. I don't know why she wanted to wear that thing. Whatever that outfit was. She looked like
a weird chicken horse thing.
It was so strange.
It was like she had like a rooster kind of like mohawk, but then like a weird like My Little Ponytail. It was all very odd. And then she was crystallized on top of it. So then I just kind of felt like, whatchamacallit, Rebecca remains Stamos or unstamos. As Mystique in X-Men, but like the really like weird hooker version of it. It was very strange. The whole thing made me feel very uncomfortable.
There was no real story. She made up some elaborate weird thing to explain it. It's like, well, I guess when you say that, it makes sense because that's the story. But
when I look at it, I don't think
and when you look at Pearl and Trixie, you got that story instantly. Trixie
and they played it up.
Trixie really may have been Pearl's idea, but Trixie like contributed with her performance because there was a real evolution of that.
I'm not trying to take away from Trixie.
Oh no, I know that. But like that's a situation where like there's an idea here, somebody who's like even taking it even further with their execution of the idea. But that's what I mean.
You need somebody like that that's going to push you.
And that's why that worked, and why Kennedy and Jasmine just didn't work.
And even Violet and Max, Michelle said, it took Violet to give me a different side of Max. Like she was wearing a blonde wig, and like the way that Violet did her makeup made her not look like Max in a blonde wig. She looked so cute. I love their little flapper corset.
Oh, they were to die for. Absolutely. Adorable. Another one where like maybe actually I still think the story behind it was even still cool. Like their story, even it wasn't the most imaginative story perhaps, but it was also like a really knockout look, really well executed,
and I think that goes back
think
to what you were saying about RuPaul being like, all right, the execution level is at like 100, and the story idea is about 75. So I'll kind of give you like the melding of the two will kind of balance each other out,
and you'll be better than some of these other ones.
And maybe next time you'll put as much thought into like the idea part and like melding the two together. Because I think every time Violet's gone out there, she's just gotten better and better and better. So much so that I
and she's really like coming out of like she's really being herself in a lot of ways. Like she's clearly like some fetish wear. All the queens like there was always a couple queens every single season who always have good fetish wear in their trunk. They packed it, they brought it, they're ready to wear it, and they usually have a really good look. But like hers was sort of more openly fetish. Mm-hmm. Like a couple weeks ago, where it was like, you know, the handcuffs and the bit gag and everything. Like she didn't like just make it like pretty drag version of fetish. This was like, no, this is drag and fetish, like real drag, real fetish combined. And, you know, I appreciate that like we're seeing all these different aspects of her, and she really did make Max look amazing. And Max is like, I love it. I'm like,
and they really did look like twins. I mean, and so did Trixie and Pearl, like the way that their makeup was done. I bought the whole story. Uh-huh. They just really did look like each other. It was crazy. Violet and Max could do a conjoined twins show.
Oh sure. My God, that would be a really cool show.
And I liked that whoever came up with the idea of them doing kind of like a 1930s look really played to both of their strengths look-wise. I mean, It wasn't just a corset bringing the two of them together because they're so tiny or whatever. It really played to like who they are as drag queens, but conjoined them and actually made like a really fun story out of it. So I thought all their praise was deserved on both ends. Trixie and Pearl, though, killed me. They were so funny, like just dragging each other along. And they just played it up. And I just enjoyed Pearl so much more, though, that she's like let loose. I mean, I always knew there was something under there. And now I know what it is. So I'm really glad. And I think that her and Trixie are a great team, too.
It totally
And I'm so bummed that Trixie didn't get to do her Anne Frank on Snatch Game.
Oh, my God. We have to talk about that.
I was so happy when it like came up after I watched Untucked. It was like, do you want to watch Trixie's Snatch Game? I was like, of course I do.
I saw it on her Twitter and was like, or was it RuPaul? I think RuPaul maybe. Somebody, I don't know. One of them, either she was tagged
RuPaul undersold how funny her fucking audition
She said it was one of the funniest things she'd ever seen. If she had been on the Snatch Game, that would, I think, have been the best Snatch Game performance of all the seasons. That really could have saved that episode if she had been on there.
I was about to say that. It would have made made a world of difference. And it would have changed, I think, a lot of people's ideas. You know, it would have been a more fun Snatch Game.
Gosh, it was
and Little Richard wouldn't have stupidly won.
That would have looked like way worse in comparison. I'm like, no, here's someone with a really good idea. Not just I don't have any ideas, but I have a mustache in my trunk that I could say is Little Richard.
And I've got a glittery blazer.
It's like, let's just not go back to that dark place.
Let's move on. We're looking in the sun.
Oh my God. Just like the whole concept. It was so perfectly realized. The idea. Like Trixie really thought of like all these different ways to take what we know about Anne Frank and everything. It was such a risky choice, but so brilliantly funny that you couldn't really hate her for it or think that I didn't find it offensive.
No.
I thought it was hysterical. I thought
it was a really funny twist in the on little Anne
corner
Frank.
and
taking selfies and like shushing and like trying to giggle and then not.
It was just such perfection. Like that was like, I think that should be like in a museum somewhere playing over and over again as performance art. Like this is how you do it, because that was I don't, like I said, no one has topped that.
I really wish that she could have done
I think we could unofficially call it the best Snatch Game performance ever. I'll have to say unofficially because it wasn't on the show.
So upset.
But we did see a whole scene with it, and I can't stop watching it. Like I repeat. It's like a song you just keep on repeat on a bad day. You know, like this is gonna lift me up. Because that's what it did. I was dying.
Ooh, speaking of songs that lift you up, though, I loved that the lip sync for Your Life was Tiffany. I think we're alone now.
Doesn't seem to be anyone around.
Oh my God, I was hoping to God. So I know that Ginger and Sasha was not
the execution of their look didn't work. Even though the idea was so good. Conjoined at the nipples, like I love it.
No, I thought that was great. I just think that being paired with Sasha Belle was the death knell.
It was.
And, it just the blow to Ginger's confidence that I don't think that she
recovered from until the lip sync. That shit was, again, it's right up there with, like, the best of the lip syncs with the whip my hair back and forth, and with the Natalie Cole one with Dita Ritz in season 4. Like, there's a couple that, like, really stand out. This is definitely up there just for the sheer, like, I couldn't believe I was seeing it. Like, 2 conjoined drag queens and one, like, what was it Katya said? She's like, this is, like, okay, Ginger and Sasha just gave themselves a mastectomy. Tempest and Jaden are in the perma buttfuck position with Larry Bird.
Looks like Larry Bird and Raven Simone are in the perma buttfuck position. I mean, can we just please already just get, like, an Etsy store of, like, Katya sayings on random knickknacks, like, on mugs and T-shirts? Like, please, can
Katya
we do that?
Girl, that is a business idea, and when we post this on Twitter, I'm going to say that in the tweet and hope that you follow it, because I want to buy all of those things from your store.
Yeah, just Katya saying.
Which is weird.
Can I just have you, like, text me once a day, Katya, with just, like, anything. The key to courage is a swollen vagina, as Bob Ross says. But I'm sure you come up with funny shit all the time. So anything that you want to say that seems semi-motivational, please send it my way.
How ironic that Pearl and Trixie winning the challenge, bringing Trixie back into the competition. Pearl's prize was, like, you get to meet with these people in New York and design your Squarespace, like your website.
Your Squarespace website.
Like, you get a free, like, something, like a year, like, of the deluxe package or whatever, and you get to work with them on putting it together. I'm like, well, really, we want you to have that, Katya, too. I'm not saying I don't want you to have it, Pearl, but I'm just saying that Katya should have it also, because that way we can buy all this shit.
Exactly.
Really, she needs to. She needs to. I mean, when we saw the Battle of the Seasons tour, all the queens there, they had their own merchandise. They had their own shirts. Ivy Winters had the Ivy Winters shirt, which I still have and wear proudly, even though I'm a little bit more like a sausage roll looking in it. Like, but nonetheless, I am hoping that if Katya gets on this tour, I cannot even imagine what she's going to put on the shirt, because there's so much to choose from.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, and then what you said you saw a tweet that somebody asked Logo if they could just make one episode of all of Katya's interviews stitched together, and we would like to sign that petition or join that bandwagon or whatever. We just want more Katya, please.
Always and forever.
Oh my God, you kill me.
Katya Zamolochikova.
Just spot on references, always amazing, and I have to say, Katya being paired up with Kasha Davis, again, I think was Kennedy being lazy. Like, they already did something together, and it sent Kasha home.
Well, actually, Katya didn't suck. Kasha was the one who really failed in that pairing. But yeah, exactly. It was like, oh, well, I know that that's not going to work, so they're not going to win and challenge me if I do this. And it was a very simple decision.
That ended up working out for them really well.
They almost won. I mean, deservedly so. Those, like,
talk about
Atlantic City, like, casino-dwelling hookers.
And I mean, you said you really wanted to see somebody conjoined at the head, but they were conjoined at the vagina, which I think is a pretty ballsy...
ballsy move. Conjoining at the vagina is a ballsy move, Margot.
Very meaty move.
Yes. Well, Katya did win Meatiest Tuck at the Despy Awards. That sent Kasha home.
I know. It was Kasha Davis. But I thought that Kasha was open and wasn't really trying to Eugene Merman it up too much, and like really kind of follow Katya's lead, and I think that redeemed herself. She almost won. She didn't quite win, but she had to lip sync for her life, so
she got to show, like, hey, I got to go out on a really good note.
Exactly.
Sasha Bell redeemed herself in that lip sync, because that was a great lip sync performance. They really played off each other, so just like, the cutting apart of the boobs, playing with the boobs, the humping of the boobs. When
the lyric came, which was like, and you tumble to the ground. I was like, oh my God, I hope they
tumbled together.
I was so happy. And then they did like the cutesy, like kicking your heels up and moving your head back and forth. It was
perfection. I'm like, they must have rehearsed this shit.
I know. I wonder. They didn't show that in Untucked, but it was essentially a foregone conclusion that they were going to rip the boobs apart at some point. So that was the only thing that was premeditated.
But even how they played with each other before they were ripped apart.
Oh my God, it was great. And the way that Ginger would rest her face on the bosom. But I do have to say, I mean, and of course this goes back to like being two people that can't really sew being paired together. And again, Sasha Bell being sort of like the moral support of the group, for a lack of a better word. I wish the boobs looked better. They just kind of look like,
I wish they looked more like
two
boobs.
long back pillows sewn together.
Yeah, like if they had done it so that they looked like boobs, it would have been an amazing thing.
And when Ross Matthews was like, I wish that they kind of went more all the way John Waters camp. And I was like, he's still going to be a judge. And that's what I got.
They're teasing us with that too. Another tease.
But I got shades of like Pink Flamingo from that a little bit.
A little bit, yes. There was a little bit of divine in that. But
the boobs, though, like, it's just, I wanted divine boobs. That was what I wanted.
Yes.
Instead, I got back pillow boobs, and that was not hot. No. And then the glue underneath, I mean, they could have gotten away with that if the boobs looked better, I think. They couldn't have gotten away with a lot of shoddiness of, like, just if the rack was all...
The racks.
Yeah,
the conjoined racks
were more divine Pink Flamingos level.
Yes. So, maybe that means the next week is when John Waters is going to be here. Maybe that was their little snippet that the editors slipped in there to be like, hey.
Lord willing.
I'm hoping so.
I felt so bad for Tempest and Jaden. I mean, the idea of being conjoined, like, butt to crotch was funny and, like, just in kind of, like, theory, spitballing ideas.
But it just didn't work.
The height discrepancy
was
too rough.
And the height discrepancy combined with that. And, I mean, it's really sad because, again, Tempest goes home the first second she comes in. But she also shared, she's had quite a life. You know, she used to be super overweight. And she really worked on bringing her health and her weight in order because she has a family that she wants to live a long time to see grow up. You know, and then we hear in this episode how... You know, she went through gay conversion therapy and, like, the whole shebang. Like, it was really, like, a painful thing to hear. Like, I'm lucky, like, I have a Mormon mother, too, but they never once, like, tried to get me into gay conversion therapy. Like, I don't know, maybe they did secretly. I mean, I saw a therapist a couple times, but I was like, I really hate this, so I'm not coming back. That's the idea of talking about myself. You'd think I would love that, but I really didn't. So I did not like it. So I never went back, and they never forced me to go or anything. Never. They never did. So I'm like, I didn't have that kind of... I may have had the same feelings of, like, being different and, like, there was nobody else like me, and I was, like, this weird freak, and I could never... There was nobody else in the world that I could ever commiserate with or somebody that I could find who would understand, you know, and... You know, there are a lot, even though I've never had that experience of having to go through gay conversion therapy, there are a lot of gay men who have, and gay women, not just men, obviously. And he really sort of reminded us that still happens. People still go through that, even though he's, you know, Tempest is older than the other queens, like, you know, so it must have been in a time before this new generation where kids are coming out earlier and earlier. There's still a lot of people who are having that problem in their communities and in their families, and they get sent to places like that, or they get sent to therapy like that, and it really, like, it's really a triumph that Tempest has come through all of that and maintained her reputation as a drag queen and has such a good spirit about her and a positive outlook on life, you know, like, that was not easy to come by judging from what we heard from her, you know, and I like, as canned as it may seem for the show to put these scenes into each episode. Or,
it is important for them to include them, though.
You know,
to just kind of remind you that
it
happens to everyone way more, or it happens to the gay community way more frequently than you are reminded of. And so it's kind of, I know it feels sometimes
they're not just
like
being fun. They're like, this is also part of representing the gay community.
Exactly. And I know it can kind of feel at times, just because of, like, the clunky editing of it, it can feel like you're gay man PSA for the day to remind you that it's not, like, discrimination is still a thing and people are still dealing with gay conversion therapy, which I only hope was as fun as the movie Saved made it kind of look. So
where you meet a hot guy,
yeah, and then you run away at prom.
You run away together,
and then you crash the straight kids' prom. I mean, I just hope.
You knock over Jesus. Oh, yeah. No, that was the Christian girl. That was
Mandy Moore.
Mandy Moore.
But still, but you were there for it, and that's cool.
I mean, that's how if I was going to go. I'm like, well, I better meet that hot guy, and we better start fucking, and we better become boyfriends, and then eventually husbands when it becomes legal in that whatever state that was. You know, like, hey, if I had to go through it, I would prefer that. Luckily, I did not have to go through it, and but yeah, that was quite a story. I'm like, Jesus, poor thing. Like, you know, a lot of kids will benefit from
the double
that.
elimination that much more bittersweet. And, like, almost, I didn't want to hear the alarm bells when he started talking about that. Cause I was
but you knew it. And also just, like, it was doomed from the beginning. You could just tell. And I'm like,
it was
they
too
were trying to
pair.
overcome it, but it was, ultimately, it was like a lose-lose situation. It was what they were put into. And that is one moment where you obviously know Kennedy knew exactly what she was doing because Jaden has been struggling, but you clearly know that there's a lot of, like, a huge amount of talent under there that she's been feeling held back from showing. And for some reason, like, she's got her own issues to deal with. But, we know that there's more there that will clearly outshine Kennedy at some point. And this was an easy way to get rid of somebody who could, whose arc could
potentially
be
sneak
peaking towards the end, because Jaden had what it took to be in the top 3 of this competition.
I think so.
So it was really sad to see her go in the episode where they bring someone back, so there's no chance that she'll come back.
Right.
But, we'll see her in the finale, which, by the way, is at the LA Orpheum Theater.
That was going to be in Vegas.
No, it's in Los Angeles, at the Los Angeles Orpheum Theater this year. They're already selling tickets for it. And, I want to see it in that classy venue.
I don't remember that being a very classy venue.
It looks like a beautiful theater inside. Or maybe I was at the Pantages. Sorry, confused it.
Yeah, way different. But
the Orpheum is one of those old palace-style theaters.
Oh, Orpheum. I don't know why I heard Coliseum.
No. God, no. Orpheum.
Oh, yeah. No, that one's nice. No, you're right. You're right.
Orpheum. Beautiful theater.
I just heard L.A. and I was like, bleh.
And you just thought, like, ugh, L.A.
All I heard was, for the next 5 seconds.
This episode had everything for me, Like I said, like, it had the tragedy. Like, I don't want tragedy, but it really completes the story.
Calm down, Stefan. This episode had everything.
Everything. Because Jaden went home, which was very sad for me.
Yeah, but
Trixie came back,
There wasn't a DJ Baby Bok Choy with little tiny hands
No.
spinning on the ones and twos.
Big sniffles.
I am sad to see Jaden go, but I am also comforted by the fact that Trixie's back.
Yes, that was a big plus.
Because as you pointed out in the review, if Ginger had, like, say, the best possible scenario, had won and brought Sasha Belle back,
everyone would be pissed. And, like, Jaden's gone and Sasha Belle came back?
Yeah, how would that play? I mean, that wouldn't have worked.
No.
So.
And I love that Trixie really took RuPaul's words to heart. RuPaul's like, every time you're out on that stage, every time, you're performing, like, that is an opportunity for you to go all out, for you to show everything that you have. So you really need to take those opportunities and not let those moments go. Don't let the opportunities pass you by. So every time you're on the stage is an opportunity. And, she took that seriously because she was hysterical every single second. Even when they were in the judging, hello, distinguished panel of judges. Like, with the headset, like, retainer thing and
the headgear.
It was just all there.
Yeah, didn't Michelle make, like, a comment about Trixie's head being better than Miss Fame or something to that effect?
Did she?
She made some sort of, like, backhanded comment about her head and her headgear.
Well, they also, yes, and then also, of course, Katya and Kasha were like, Miss Fame did our makeup. I'm like, shade.
Oh, man.
Shade.
Oh, and yeah, well, in the Untucked episode, Miss Fame got one, too. She was like, oh, so Kennedy, you paired me with Candy. After Kennedy said that, oh, you could paint Candy to look a lot like you. And Miss Fame said, oh, Kennedy, so you paired me with Candy Ho so somebody could finally banish her beard? It's like, damn, bitch.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and then fucking Candy Ho was like, stank face, and Miss Fame was just laughing too hard to even notice. It was pretty good. It was a perfect moment. And on that note,
I think it's time to sign off for the day. I think these shady ladies have been tuckered out by this last episode.
Oh my goodness, I feel like we're conjoined.
I'm
Because you were
ready to
sick
live
last week
again.
and now I'm sick this week.
I know, but this episode brought me back to life.
I know, oh my god.
I'm going to watch it again.
Trixie Mattel's and Frank Snatch Game seriously gave me life today, though. It made me feel better.
On the ride home. On my smartphone. Oh, well, we must bid adieu. The Shady Ladies are signing off. I am Samir Roy for GAMbIT Magazine, joined by
Mark Poupard, also for GAMbIT Magazine. You can catch us here every single week, or you can just subscribe on iTunes or download our podcast. And we're also on the YouTubes at GAMbIT Digital.
Yep, that's our YouTube channel.
And always make sure you stay tuned to the GAMbIT Twitter to make sure that we're not live tweeting something that you should be reading that's also hysterical and gut busting. And until next week, bye.
Bye.